Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now let's give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Peter.
My name is Peter. I'm an alcoholic. God, what a bunch of alcoholics. I want to thank Donna for asking me to come and speak tonight. Donna was one of the first people to hug me on this program. I was like unhuggable when I got here. You know those? You know the type? He's unhuggable. Thank you, Donna. And Gigi, I love you, man. You know, that was great. The fabulous Finns. I said, so where in Finland are you from? She's a Mick, like me, you know? Irish Catholic drunk. I love you more. So where in Finland are you from? And happy birthday to all the birthday people. And I'm so far off course today, I don't even know where to go, you know? You know, I've been like in a fog all day, and I don't know why. I must have sneezed 100 times yesterday. Something's floating out there. I don't know what it is. But it wasn't a cocaine sneeze, I know that. Some kind of ragweed or something was floating, and man, what little brain I had left, I blew all over the Malibu hills there. Unlike Gigi, I'm scared to death tonight. But it's great to be here. I'm scared to death wherever I go. It just took me like 37 years to figure out that was my problem. Fear. Outrageous, self-centered fear at the core of my being. You know, bursting out of every pore. Fear! That was one big fear ball, like cruising through, and I didn't know I was a scaredy cat, you know? I thought I was, well, I hoped that I was, I wanted to be bitchin', you know? I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be scary, mysterious. I wanted to be powerful. I wanted to be, all those things, you know, everything. I wanted to be Rock Hudson and Clark Gable at the same time. I wanted to be Tinker Bell and Bluto. I wanted to be everything. The thing I did not want to be was normal. I had no desire to be normal. The word didn't even ring like well with me, you know, normal. I hope to grow up to be normal. I was like real low on my list. And by the way, I'm sharing with you my opinions about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am not an authority, although I'd love to be someday. I like to go to that meeting where they give you those awards, but in the meantime, I'll just keep hitting rooms trying to find that meeting where they give that trophy. Let's see, what it used to be like was I wanted to be like you. And what happened was, I don't know what the hell happened, you know? I couldn't figure it out. And what it's like now is, I try to hang out with you because you guys kind of help give me direction to find out who I am hanging out with you. And that's kind of the way it is today. But I started off, not far from the beach here, about 60 miles south of here. I was a beach rat and had a big Irish family, Irish Catholic family, Pat, Pete, Pug, Peg, and Pam. And my dad was a school teacher, and we lived in a real wealthy community. I don't know how we snuck in there, but I know I certainly felt less than for about my whole life. And everybody had a car before they had a license, and, I had somebody's old bike. Balloon tire bike. And it was a great, loving family. I mean, we had a lot of fun, and they did try the best, but there were only 2 of them. There were 5 of us, and I never got enough, and I'm here because I am a pig in every area of my life. I'm just, I never got enough love, attention, affection, money, property, prestige, new clothes. I never got enough. I am a pig, and I never got enough. And Pete the pig. And I tried the best I could. This must be the year of the pig, there's like a pig everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's some pig there. And it's okay, I can identify. But I tried to get out of that family all the time. And I eventually succeeded. I busted out of there in about 1962 and a half, right? And I got out of there and I went east. I didn't have a boat, so I went that way. I stuck my thumb out, and I ended up back east there, and nobody knew me, nobody knew what to expect, and so I could be somebody different everywhere I went, and that's what I was. I faked my way through life. Hi, I'm Rock Hudson and Clark Gable. Hi. And I just lied and cheated and sneaked my way right across the deal, and I loved it all. I loved the whole party mode, Someone was, I think it was Gigi was telling us about how much she enjoyed a party. And I totally identified, because that was my M.O. too. I would, want to dance? And that's the way I kind of went through life, and I liked it. I liked having all those balls in the air at the same time, and they didn't have to be mine. In fact, I preferred they were yours. And all those balls came crashing down around my head about 1981. 91? 96? 92? 82? I don't know. I was 14 years sober last month, whatever that is for you mathematicians. And Craig and I were talking about standing out in front of the log cabin over there. We used to go over there on Saturday mornings, and Saturday about just about this time, at maybe like this next Saturday. It was like Craig was storming out of that room. He was on his way out. He'd been there one day. And he'd heard enough, Someone said hi to him or something. Hi, Craig. Ah! And he came storming out of that door. And I had 2 ears. I pretty much knowed it all, And I, hold it there, Craig. Where you going, buddy? Where you going? I don't know. I'm getting out of here. I'm going. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Oh, yeah? Where you going? I don't know. You going to a bar? Maybe. Oh, man. Both of us got out of sitting through that meeting. We stood out there, John and trying to figure out why we're here. We knew why we were here. It was over, The war was over, and we lost. And if the war is over and you're lost, you're supposed to be dead, Here we are, the walking non-dead, without the war. It's over and we lost. What do we do now? Go to Architects of Adversity, And so I did all that, and as much as I could until finally my body just went, you know, and it all came to a halting stop. And I hit that moment that Gigi talked about brilliantly when her mom came walking in there and she had puke in her pocket, and only she didn't have any clothes on, you know, and I totally identified, but totally, that my same moment of what they call in the book is incomprehensible demoralization in depth. Basically, it means I don't like Pete. And at that point in my life, I didn't like anybody or anything. About 14 years, 2 months ago. Nothing. I didn't like anybody. Everybody had my job. She had my job. That animal had my job. Everybody had my job. And nobody could do it right. And I'd do it, but I didn't feel like it. And, but I might later. So, I had what you call BA, bad attitude, you know, very bad attitude. The negativity spewed out of me at that point. And I wasn't raised to be that guy. I used to help people do stuff because they needed help. But somewhere along the line, I got to the point where, is this meeting over at 9? What? Oh, whew. All of a sudden I went, and then he got sober and didn't say it. Thank you. I told you I'm in a fog today. Surprised I could see that far. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Something I said, Tony? Okay, Tony's here. Come on back, Tone, please. I'm such a people pleaser, man. I am. I always was. Take my rent money. I'll find it some other way. No, really, take mine. You know, I didn't know how. I did not know how to say no to in any area. And man, when it came to a crashing halt here about 14 years ago, I truly, at that moment of incomprehensible demoralization, I didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do. And so I came crawling into one of these meetings because I'd I'd been drinking, tooting, snorting all night long, and I jumped in a borrowed Mustang convertible, took off, the guy creased the rear end on the way across Santa Monica Boulevard, but not enough to slow me down. Kept flying up the Curson there. My buddy's sitting next to me, and I hung a right on Fountain, and he says, no, grabs the wheel, says, no, left, and crash into this 65-year-old guy on his way to work, you know, and the smoke and steam is coming out of his hood and coming out of my hood. My buddy jumps out and runs up the street, and my good buddy, and I looked at that guy. He looked at me. I looked at him. He looked at me. We looked at each other. Well, why didn't he come over here and find out what the hell is wrong? I'm certainly not in any condition to go over there. And I looked at him, he looked at me, he looked at me, and then, you know, I got out and weaved over and said, what the hell's happening here? And this guy says, I believe you hit me, and I think you broke my foot. That's why he wasn't getting out to walk over. I'd broken his foot. Well, he could have jumped on one leg, except I broke both of his feet. So it's hard walking on two broken feet. I said, don't worry about it. The cops will be here in a second. We'll get you fixed up. And the cops were there, and the ambulance took him to the hospital and took me to jail. Tried me on all the tests. I passed them all, especially the breathalyzer test. I asked him what the record was on it. I can beat that. I've always been very competitive. And I can snort more, drink more, than any of you guys. And then I ran into this guy who was like 6'4", 5", professional football player for about 10 years. And he was my hero, you know. He could drink and snort and yell and stomp and And he had this trick he did with a Smirnoff bottle that was the most exciting thing I'd ever seen, where he could pop a fresh one, and the cap would float, you know. I thought that was so impressive. And I followed him around trying to keep up with him, and until my body just said, you know, and he drove me to my first AA meeting because I figured I could beat the judge by coming here because I heard they sentenced you to AA. I came in here, and he drove me to the first meeting over there on Hollywood and Gardner, Monday night, and dropped me off at the curb there and said, "Wish you had the balls to go in there with you." Ah! I was flying up the street like a madman, smoking, and I actually went up to the little courtyard there. They have all the windows in there, and everyone's in there, you know, fixing the coffee and making the donuts and putting the little doilies on the Bible, so it looked like to me. And I looked in there, and it was too scary. And I was about 245 pounds. I had a big pork red face. I had couldn't close the collar on my tie, and I had like stains on every part. But I was looking good. I had a suit and tie on. I was going to one of these AA things. And I looked in the window, and man, it was too scary. So I walked down the block there to that Oriental Theater that's not even there anymore and watched 2 movies, don't even know what I saw, and then I walked home. Woke up the next day and called somebody. "How was it? What was it like?" "Oh, it's horrible. People sitting around, dark, dank." "You going to go again?" "Yeah, I have to. You know, the judge." "Yeah, the judge." So I called them again. They said, "Yeah, they've got a Tuesday night book study over here on San Vicente, right over here next to your house." Okay. I walked over there to that candlelight book study they've got there. "Hi, I'm Larry. Hi, I'm Bob. Hi, I'm Tommy. Hi, I'm Mary. Hi, I'm... It's the big book. He come it easy does it. Let go and let God, one day at a time." Oh, you guys, and you guys were adorable. You were so nice. I went home, I smoked a big old doobie, and I thought about it. Something was going on in that room. I couldn't hear a thing, and something was going on. I don't know what it was, but there was a feeling there that I hadn't felt since I was like in my early teens. It was that feeling of you guys were trying to do something nice for somebody for no apparent reason, you know, because obviously I didn't have a pot to piss in, you know, you didn't know, I couldn't, whatever you were trying to get out of me, I didn't got, you know, yeah, but I went back, and the next day, you know, I had to take a peek at it again. By the way, that first meeting, that was a gay meeting, didn't even know it. I went back for 2 more months and didn't even know it. In New York, they call it mocus. Now, I don't know what mocus means literally, but to me, it means half mucus, half focus. And you're like, when you're a newcomer in your first 90 years, yeah, that's all it takes. 90 years of mocus. Keep coming back. No, I'm just kidding. 90 days. 90 days. If you're a newcomer, 90 days. I promise 90 days of mocus, and then it'll clear. It'll lift. Did for me on the 91st day. And it came crashing down on the 92nd. Now, if you're new, let me scare you a little. This is what you call, I don't know. This is like the Love Boat compared to being back out there. You know, being out there, bipping and slapping and moving and slamming and bipping and moving and bobbing. I used to get up somewhere. My MO was like somewhere noonish. You know. That's when I would like roll over and that little wooden box next to my mattress on the floor and move that stuff around on top of that little wooden box there until I found a little you know, good morning. Then I'd go in and take a pee, and then I'd come out and I'd look around on that same box for the, through the lint and the ash and the stuff for those little vials, with the little pin, and you scrape the tops and scrape the thing, move it all around. Ah! Oh, good morning. And then I'd kind of walk out to the kitchen and get that coffee going and slap a little drambuie in it just to sweeten it. As I didn't drink in the morning. It was just, And I'd start my day. I had my, now I was ready to go to work. Brain surgery. Just kidding, I'm not a brain surgeon. Did you guess? And, and I had tried to go through my life that way, and it just, and it got too hard. It just got too hard. I wouldn't have stopped if I probably hadn't hurt somebody. But Gigi's attention was gotten by being embarrassed for herself. I was embarrassed for myself. And when I hurt somebody, I've hurt probably millions of people in my lifetime, but this is the first one I noticed. And it got my attention. That was my bottom. I haven't had it, it hasn't been necessary for me to drink or use since that day. Well, actually, I did smoke marijuana for the first 2 weeks of my sobriety because I needed it. And Super Bowl Sunday, I gave it up. The 26th of January. Actually, it was like the 8th of January when I had the accident, but the 26th is when I actually call my sobriety day, because that's the first day I was clean and sober. And it hasn't been necessary for me to drink or use anything since then. But I have found it necessary to go to a couple of meetings. And in my first year, my first 90 days, I went to a meeting every day. And when the guy told me 90 meetings in 90 days, the thought, the image of any living human going to 90 meetings in 90 days was unfathomable for this guy. I couldn't imagine anyone with that much time on their hands to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. Doesn't anyone have a life? I thought, that's impossible. There's just no way I can do it. And sure enough, by my 90th day, I'd been over 250 meetings, and I couldn't figure out how I did it. Talk about not much of a life. Jeez, I was going to 3, sometimes 4 if you could in a day. We were trying to set records. I became as obsessive and compulsive about going to meetings as I used to be about drinking and using and getting high and scoring. And believe me, I was on people's doors in the middle of the night, banging through the thing, screaming and yelling, "Where's my stuff? Here's the rubber. Where's my stuff?" And I went to any lengths to get drunk, and then high, and then nuts. So, going to a meeting a day, piece of cake, I even got up in the morning to go to meetings. Couldn't believe it. I didn't get up in the morning to go to work. And stuff just started getting better. This fear that I still have today, 14 years later, this huge fear in the center of my thing that spreads out, like I mentioned earlier, in every area outward, all day, every day. Every time I walk into a room of people I don't know, or people I do know, or anywhere. Fear, full of fear. I just deal with it a little differently today. When you're driving along that freeway at 80 miles an hour, well, 60 miles an hour, what's the speed limit now? At 70 miles an hour, and you're like checking out the hills and stuff. Wow. That guy, you got to look out for that guy. The one, fear keeps you looking straight ahead on that freeway. Fear keeps you driving at the, fear when you're chopping that knife, and at that carrot, and you're looking up at the fly, you better start worrying about it. Fear is good sometimes, I believe fear is a friend of mine. When I don't have fear is when I start to worry. So fear is now my pal. I walk into that room, if I don't have that fear, something's wrong. So it's good for me to keep checking in here because I have a fear of getting drunk again. I have a fear of getting high and crazy and driving over my neighbor's kid. I have a fear of my family, humiliating my family and friends again. I have a fear of lying again. I have a fear of cheating and of stealing and of hurting people. I have a fear of doing that. I love the feeling of none of those things happening in my life today and for the last 14 years. I love that feeling. That feeling fills me. And it's allowed me to do things I never would have thought I was going to be able to do in my whole life. I think, well, I know Gigi was talking about going to Hawaii and going to meetings over there. I was over there, and I went to that meeting over there, and God, it was a great. You know, I've been to meetings all over the world. I was in a meeting in New Zealand. I couldn't even understand what they were talking about. They said they spoke English, but I couldn't understand them. And I loved it, you know, and they just took me in and carried me like what's their name? She says that in New York they call them pigeons. Out here we call them babies or sponsees, you know. In New York they call them pigeons, and they say the reason why they call them pigeons is that one day eventually they're going to shit on you, you know. But there's another definition that they're called pigeons because in the pigeon family, or when a pigeon is wounded or something, all the other pigeons fly underneath and support it and carry it with them, you know, which is like a great image. I love that image. And that's kind of like what AA around the world is like. You come flying into one of those meetings somewhere, you know, one of those nests somewhere, and all the other pigeons are sitting in there, and they just kind of, you know, you're a little winged or wounded or out of gas or whatever, and they just fly underneath you and lift you up and carry you on.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
I was working out in Arizona, a little place called where was it? Apache Junction. And, man, I was going nuts. Everybody I was working with was at the bar, you know. And I went up, you know, I was in my room turning the TV on and off going nuts. And calling a couple of friends of mine and hello, you know, and finally I said, I'm going down the bar. Give me a Diet Coke. Thank you very much. Isn't that great today? Yeah, it was beautiful. Hey, yeah, that's great. Yeah, beautiful. A couple of guys sneaking off to the John. I know they're snorting back there, you know, and I'm watching. Finally, I finished my Diet Coke. Well, I guess I'll go to my room. Got a lot of stuff to do up there. Turn the TV on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. A couple of more calls. Nobody's still home. And then it just hit me like, oh, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. It's like, I go out of state. I'm no longer an alcoholic. So I realized, oh, God, I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Alcoholics Anonymous, how you guys doing here in Apache Junction? The guy says, actually, I think I was in Phoenix or something. And Apache, they said the meeting was in Apache Junction. So I called a cab, and $22 later, I'm in Apache Junction at this meeting with like 17 people around here. It's like, no, yeah, about 15 cowboys, 1 Indian, and 1 woman. And this West Hollywood alcoholic comes walking in, you know. And he goes, hi, I'm Ronnie Bob, sober 7 years now, grateful. Hi, I'm Slim, sober 5 years, grateful. Well, Ronnie Bob pretty much covered it. What the hell did Ronnie Bob cover, you know? And Finally gets to me, hi, Peter Alcoholic, what's all you know? God, I mean, they're running the joint. You know what? I'm going, man, I'm just turning that TV on and on, and I have a $22 cab ride. By the way, anybody go back to the hotel on the way back? Love to get a ride. And thank you. And boy, they're all looking at me like, you know. Finally get to the Indian, you know, he goes, talk to higher power today. No drink today. I looked at him and went, whoa. My hero. God. And then like one line, right? It's the entire program in one line. Talk to higher power today. No drink today. So what I'm getting at is I finished the meeting, you know, and all these people came up to me. They all gave me their names. They all gave me their numbers. They all were fighting to take me back to the hotel. You know, they told me about a meeting every day, every night, every meeting in that area. And what happened was I went, whew. You know, they eased my dis-ease. You know, they made me belong. I was okay with you guys. It was fine. I went back to work the next day. Everything was great. I worked real hard for the rest of the week. I didn't make one more meeting while I was there. But I didn't have to. I made the meeting I needed to make. And the night I left, I called every one of them that gave me a number and thanked them for being there for me. And I'm going back there shortly. And I want to call them back up again because they're in my AA book. You know, I got a book with names and numbers. Bobby. Don't having a clue, but I got a number. Bobby B, how you be? It's old PDJ. What do you say? Hey. You know, I haven't a clue who it is, but there's a number there with an area code, and I know it works, you know, and I know they'll tell me when the next meeting is, what time, and where I'm supposed to go. Anywhere in the world, it's easy. But you got to show up. You got to want it. Alcoholics Anonymous isn't for people who need it. There's a lot of people out there who need it. Couple in my family. I can't talk to them. It's not for people who need it. It's for people who want it. I didn't even know I wanted it. I'm glad I stuck around to find out that I did. The woman I drove out of the country 15 years ago popped back into my life when I was, when I was 6 months sober. I went down there. I drove her out of the country, you know. Went down there to Puerto Rico. I said, hi, Peter Alcoholic, how am I doing? She went, keep coming back. And I went down there when I was a year sober, and she said, keep coming back. And when I was about a year and a half sober, she popped up here. We got married. We went over to that bank there in West Hollywood, Peter Alcoholic. They gave me a house. It was easy. Just walked in and said, Peter Alcoholic. Told him the truth on everything. And it set me free. Everything is easy to do now. I don't have to remember what I said to him, about what I said to her, about what I said, what did I, you know? Now I just say what I know. And it's really easy. I didn't know I was going to be able to have this much fun sober. Otherwise, I'd have started a long time ago. You know, I didn't know I was going to be enjoying growing things. I grew up at the beach with the sand. You can't grow anything there except ice plant, you know. And I got a garden in my backyard, and believe me, I've read nothing about it, and I know nothing about it, except that I built these big planters through the whole. I had a big piece of grass, you know, like everyone's got, a big square of grass, you know. And I put these big planters in, 2 dump trucks full of topsoil, filled them all up, went down to that Mortigan place, got every seed in the rack, every one of them. Took all the tops off, poured them in a gigantic bowl, and just started throwing them, you know, everywhere. And then I'd go out for my meditation is this. And I do that every day, and nothing goes in, you know. Nothing goes out, nothing goes in. I just watch those zucchinis doing it. You know, catch the lavender trying to work, you know. And that's my meditation every day. I didn't know how much fun it was going to be. I didn't know I was going to be a gardener. And I didn't know I was going to be pulling figs off this tree and making, like in one night, 4 cases of fig jam. And I didn't know that when I was drinking and using. I didn't know I was going to be trading my birdhouses that I'm making for this zucchini bread recipe. So I could make, like when I'm up to my kneecaps in zucchini, like when they hit, whoa, you know, you got to do something with them. I didn't know I'd be making zucchini bread to go with my fig jam. You know, when I got sober, that wasn't part of the deal. All I was promised was if I didn't drink, I wouldn't get drunk. Well, there's drunk and there's drunk, you know. They promise you that you will be restored to sanity on this program. I'm just wondering when. I've been having so much fun for the last 14 years, I'm afraid to stop going to these meetings. You know, I'm afraid I might miss something. They said, you know, you may miss the miracle. All right, I'm still here. And, God, it's so easy. All you got to do is show up. I have a relationship with this woman that we share stuff on a daily basis. I tell her what I did all day in my fabulous life. And she tells me what she did all day in that boring old life of hers over at work. But at least we're up to date in each other's lives, you know? When the shit hits the fan in her life, I know how to help her unplug the fan. You know I'm up to date in her life. She comes and shares this stuff that's going on in her work, and all of a sudden I said, well, that guy's a jerk. You know, go in tomorrow and ask him for twice as much money. Twice as much. Just period, twice as much. And I promise you, he's the one that arrives home tomorrow night crying and not you. Well, what if he fires me? Then he fires you. So what? Let him run that mess. You know, and so she does, and everything's rosy all of a sudden again. Only because you guys taught me how to do that. You guys taught me that we're worth something here. You know, that it's okay to stand up and say, hey, that's my toe you're stepping on. Thank you. And that I'm okay, that I'm a person just like you, not any better, not any worse. I'm a worker among workers here, and I'm happy to be of service. Happy. In fact, when I am of service, I'm happier. You taught me that if I do something nice for somebody every day and don't tell anyone about it, all of a sudden there's a little bubble in me that just... And if I do 17 nice things in a row in 17 days for somebody and don't tell 17 people about it, I'm floating down. I got 17 bubbles. I'm just cruising down that block without touching the ground. And speaking of touching the ground, I better do it now. And I want to thank Donna for asking me to come and share. And thank you very much.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.